Hi YouTube, we are back and I am back with Pixie, my daughter. This is Mia and today I'm going to do Tea Time with Mia part 2 with guest. And so yeah, I've got some questions that I have gathered up from some friends and other followers and whatnot, some of her friends and followers. So we've got some questions here we are going to go over. Thank you everybody. By the way, we are thinking about doing this on a more regular basis. If there's a time that we can't get together this way, there might be a time that we do it through Skype video and record it that way, right? That's what we were thinking about?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So yeah, we're thinking about doing this as a regular thing. So just to let you all know, if you do have any questions, any of my followers, or any of her followers as well, please send them in, post them below, and I will review them and hopefully we will cover them next time in the next video. So hey everybody, we're back. So hey Pixie, how have you been?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, last time we met, well at least the YouTubers saw you, was back in December. It's now March?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to make sure. Our days and weeks and months kind of get mixed up and I'm not the host, so I'm not as yeah, I think you guys all know how that goes. Okay, so should we just get on with it, or is there anything else you wanted to say or first or anything? I don't know.
I think some people were asking if I had any social media, so I'll send all that stuff to my mom.
One of the questions yesterday. That was actually from Never Ever, so we'll cover that one first. Never Ever is one of the people that posted a question during our last video, and he said, "Great video, thanks for sharing. Does she have any social media?"
And so I was thinking I could just send that to my mom, and she could post some of that stuff in the description with the video, and that would work better.
Yes, so that would be fine. Okay. Another question comes from, and I'm sorry if I get any of these names wrong, you guys, but this is, would you say Rio Vesto?
Yeah.
What do you mean by possible fakers? So the last video, to explain this question, we were talking a little bit about how her and I have both ran into people who are questionable, like we're not really sure, I don't know, like I can't really judge, but
They probably weren't someone with D.I.D, but they claim that they were.
right. And so they're like, what do you mean by fakers? And this person also, the full comment, I'm sorry I didn't write down your full comment because I was like handwriting, you guys. See, literally, I'm like handwriting here. So I was handwriting and yeah. So I didn't write down the full comment, but Real Vista also shared that they're also a system and that sometimes there others do things and they'll explain it that so-and-so is out, but they're not explaining it to get out of responsibility. They're just saying, hey, as a matter of fact, it was this person out when this happened. And I agree with that. That's the same way we are. The way that we are, it's like we might explain that this person was out at the time when such and such happened, but it's not to get out of taking responsibility, because we'll all take responsibility for anybody else's actions. We had that mindset a long time ago, so that if one of us messes up, then it affects all of us. So we've got to work with that.
And a lot of people who are faking will mean it as a way to get out of.
Yeah, I've seen people like, they're like, oh, well, that was my other that did it. And so therefore I'm not at fault or responsible. You can't blame me. You can't fault me. You can't blame me. And again, I feel weird about saying this because I do know other systems that I feel are valid, real systems. And they do feel strongly like if one of their others did something, then they shouldn't be blamed for that. So that's not necessarily, this is just such a delicate matter. I don't really like it. I don't really like discussing this at all. I really don't. And, but I have come across people who have claimed they have D.I.D, and I don't know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. yeah, I
The
don't know.
person that I ran into that was questionable, he didn't mention that he had anything like this until I told him what D.I.D was, and he didn't know, so I had to explain. And that's when he said, "Oh, well, I think I might have that." And like, it just didn't add up, a lot of the things that he did. But like my mom said, it can be really questionable and a bit of a touchy subject.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like talking about this because I really don't know who out there is what, and I don't like to judge. So it's, if a person feels that they are DID, then okay, that's how you feel. If you really want to know if you're DID, I recommend getting diagnosed. We've been diagnosed. So we are a diagnosed DID system. And diagnosis isn't for everyone, so you don't have to, but if that's an avenue you want to take, and if it validates something for you or means something to you or your system to get diagnosed, then do that. But if that's not an avenue you want to take, then that's okay too. But yeah, so I can't validate somebody else's experiences. I just know what our experience is like with being DID. Okay, so I forgot who asked the this came from one of the people on your phone, I think.
That was Cal.
Okay, so this is a friend of hers that she knows personally, Cal, and he asked, how disconnected am I when I am not them? Okay.
Do you want me to read what I asked him to kind of reword the question, rephrase it, because we weren't exactly sure. Did you want me to read what he said as well?
Yeah, can you please? Cause I don't.
So he said, are you aware of how they would act, so the people that aren't at front right now would react in the situation that you're in at times, or do they just all go quiet?
Both could happen. Like, okay, wait. Guys, can I read it? That might work better. This. If you were, it's okay. I get where you're coming from now, Cal. If I was given a hypothesis like, hey, what if suddenly my best friend knocked on the door, what would happen? Or what if suddenly a fire broke out next door? I don't know. Like, how would different people react? Then I know probably how they would react, and we would all have different reactions to things. So whether, like, there's a lot of talk about triggers and DID, and there can be positive triggers and negative triggers. And so, like, say ice cream, for example. I don't know what else to use. So, or coffee even. Ice cream. Somebody else's. Okay. So, if I knew of a situation, or like say, given a hypothetical situation, and then asked how would different people in my system respond, I could probably tell you how they would respond. I don't know for a fact, but I know probably how they would respond. Yeah. I don't know if I really answered his question.
I think you did.
Okay. All right. So we are going on next to Tammy. So hi Tammy, how are you? And so Tammy, she has a question. This question is for you. And she says, what is it like to be parented by someone younger than you? And I think she means me.
Well, it's right now, because I'm more of an adult, it's less like a parenting and more of a, like, I'm your friend and your mom. But I mean, when I was a child, and when I was living here for that specific year, it
And
really,
when you were younger.
yeah, when we were younger, it was still my mom. I didn't really look at her as someone younger, because, I mean, I don't really look at her as someone younger. She just is acting a little bit different. And I also try to look at people, including children, and I try to treat them as another adult as well, especially when in retail. So even outside of my mom, I still try to treat people that way.
Okay. So you don't really like saw that it was somebody younger than, because it's the body's older than you, and that's still, I'm still your mom, and the body is whoever. It doesn't matter. Like you were saying before, it doesn't really matter who's out. We're all mom, and we kind of had to instill that as well. It was a little bit harder for me personally, because we've explained this before in other videos. I know I sound a lot like a little, which I kind of am. I'm not completely a little though. I'm in the age slider, and I slide between 6 years old to 16. And believe it or not, right now I am in my 16-year-old state, but even my 16-year-old state, I still have a younger way of talking. I'm just more free-spirited. I'm just like, I don't know, I just like to have fun, and I'm free-spirited. So but everybody says I sound younger, so that's okay. And sometimes I do go young, so imagine what I sound like when I go really young. Actually, probably not that much different. Okay, so, and the second part of Tammy's question was, as a caregiver, what are the ramifications of people like CPS and Elder Services figuring out you have D.I.D. and have children in your system? Good question. I have no idea, and to be honest. I have no idea what the ramifications might be with something like that. I don't really know, but what I do know is that depending on where you live, we're in America, and in America we have HIPAA, and HIPAA protects you from things like that. So they have no rights to your records, of your mental health records. The only way that they would find out about your condition is if you were to tell them about your condition and also tell them that you have littles or something like that. If a person is doing a YouTube channel or something like that and a person was to find out that way, I don't really know. But again, this isn't something, okay, a therapist also told me that D.I.D. is not on an insane list. Apparently there's a list of conditions that are supposedly like on that level of insanity. And D.I.D. is not one of them. In fact, she told me that D.I.D. happens to prevent insanity from happening. So, yeah. So it's, D.I.D. isn't nobody can use it against you. Like maybe people can judge you for it, but they can't say, oh, you have D.I.D. and then take your kids away. There has to be something else in place that's going on for them to deem that you're unfit of a mother if it's CPS related. I don't know about elder services, but they'd have to do an investigation and see that or know that, or I mean, have some kind of proof that something else is going on, something else. I don't know what, but something that they would decide would be unfit. But it can't be based on just your mental health, because there are a lot of people with mental health, things, conditions, and they work full-time jobs, they work as teachers, there's people who are D.I.D that are your children's teachers out there. I guarantee it. There is a teacher out there with D.I.D somewhere, probably a lot of them. So there's people with this condition that are teaching your children right now. And it doesn't make them any less of a teacher either. I know a person who was a lawyer and she had D.I.D. So you could be working with a lawyer right now and your lawyer might have D.I.D. Being D.I.D doesn't affect your job, and even if your job is as a parent, it doesn't affect your job as a parent either. So they can judge you, but they can't use it against you, not legally. There has to be another reason in place, and that's the reason why HIPAA is in place, you guys. I used to work in the medical field, and HIPAA is in place to protect your rights for this reason, to protect you from things like that, because the only reason why a person could pull your mental records is if you're being investigated under a criminal case. So as long as you're not being accused of something criminal, then your records are personal and they have no right to them, therefore they cannot use that against you. So I really don't know what the ramifications are. I've never heard of any. And so we're gonna go. I hope that answers your question, Tammy. I love you, girl. Okay. And how do you pronounce her name?
So a friend of mine, Evan, she asked, what did your other personalities think about the kids while growing up?
What did my other personalities think about the kids while growing up? So Ash is one of the boys that has like the worst dysphoria with us. Like during things like pregnancy, he just wouldn't be around. So anything really female, he won't be around for. And pregnancy was one, and that was just really difficult, for him to kind of truly process. But I mean, he wasn't, we had all of the other people, like there was me, and there was Diva, and there was Andy, and there was, all these other people that, were happy and excited about the pregnancy. So our pregnancy went fine. He just he was still there, but he didn't want to be part of the pregnancy. And after she was born, because she's our oldest, so she was our first, but after she was born, it was anytime he was out and taking care of her, like he was fine taking care of her as a baby and stuff. What really shocked him was the first time she called him mama. So that was a really big shock when she started talking and the first time she called him mama. That was a really strange feeling. So I know I've heard about him talking about this before. Maybe sometime he'll talk about it himself and do a video about it. So about parenting and D.I.D. and talk about his own dysphoria with the things that he struggled with. But he's also said, I've heard him say this.
Alright guys, so we got a phone call in the middle of that. I'm gonna have to figure that out later on, how to like turn that off when I'm videotaping. And so I got a call in the middle and it caused us to trigger, well not trigger, but to switch. Sorry, careful of my words here. But it caused us to switch, and so now it's Dax. I apologize, but I'm gonna have to finish up the tea time and the interview questions. Yeah, it is what it is, so that's how it goes. Alright, do you know where we were? I have no idea.
You are about to ask that question.
This one. Alright, so we're gonna try this again.
We got another call, and then we turned on airplane mode.
Yes. So, no more calls. We're good. Okay. Do you remember who asked this one? I'm on this one.
Evan A asked that one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Evan A, she asked, when did you notice your mother's mental illness?
So I never really particularly noticed it until when I moved here. I think I talked a little bit about it when I was doing the video the last time. But before I moved, no, it was before that. It was one of the times I came to visit my mom. My dad sat us down and was telling us, me and my sister, about the fact that my mom has D.I.D. and what that meant. And so when I came to visit again, you know, I asked her about it, and she wasn't totally open and like totally cool with us knowing. I don't think, not with me being that age.
How old were you when you were like 8, weren't you?
Yeah, probably, because it was, I don't know, probably like 9, 10. So I didn't ever really notice it until after until my dad explained it to me.
Okay. So before that, you didn't really seem like you. Okay. Is this Pride?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Pride, hello Pride, asks, how many personalities do we have? We say we have roughly around 20 to 25. We have a couple new people floating around right now, so it is what it is. It just is. I feel so girly right now. I want to go and wash off all this makeup and crap and redo the hair, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna get through this video. We've been trying to do this video all afternoon. All right. Black question mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asks, how do you manage your personalities? Does any of the personalities overpower the others? Hi, my name's Dax. I overpower them because I'm host. No, not really. It's, well, kind of. How do you manage your personality? I don't really manage them. They each manage themselves. It's, right now we're in a unique condition, like, unique area in our life where we stay at home. So anybody can come out whenever they want to come out and do whatever they want. Now, before, when we had jobs and worked and everything, then the host, who was not me then, would do, you know, she would come out and she would do the job and earn the money and everything. And then at night when we would, you know, after she'd get home, then it was pretty much anybody could come out and do their own thing. Because we always felt like our home should be a place where any of us should feel comfortable coming out and being ourselves. Because if we can't be ourselves in our home, where can we be ourselves at? So if you mean like how do you manage your personality as far as like time or when who comes out, we don't switch a whole lot these days. Today is, I had a bad mental day yesterday, and one of the new people was out last night, and then we've switched at least 3 or 4 times today, so I've been having a very switchy day today. Anyway, so it's, we don't, where's how do you make, so we don't really manage them. If anybody has a request to want to come out and do something, like, I remember before when Diva used to work, and say like me or my brother, we really wanted to come out and play a game or something like that. And so I'd put out a note in the front, or just let Diva know or whatever. I'd be like, hey, I'd really like to play, you know, video game when we get home tonight and stuff. And she's like, okay. And whoever put in the first request for whatever, like if there was other people that wanted to do stuff, if Ash or Andy wanted to do something or whatever, any of the others, then whoever put their notes in first, and then it would just kind of go in line, like, okay, so I got first dibs, I play a video game for like an hour or 2, and then the second person would go, and the third person, if there was anybody. If there was nobody else that put in a request to do something that day or night, then I could come out and play video games as long as I wanted to or whatever. So we had to go to bed. we always had a policy though that whatever the responsibilities are that we have, whether it be work, school, taking care of kids, of course, that whatever responsibilities we had, no matter it, whoever is out has got to accept those responsibilities for that time of day. And I say that because there's people that we have in our system, or at least one in particular, that will only come out at night. She will not come out during the daytime. So she'll only come out at night. And at night is when we have the least responsibilities, so she doesn't have as many, at least not since they were babies. When they were babies, it was a different story. She wasn't out that much at all when she was, you know, kid. And that's another person, actually. Harley actually wasn't out. Harley's one of our quiet ones, and my brother for that matter too. We weren't out a whole lot when they were younger, because, I mean, since we do have the ability to talk, then we needed, you know, the person who was going to be, you know, parent rolling that was out during that time had to voice, you know, to talk to our children and to teach them how to talk and everything. So they didn't spend as much time with them when they were younger. Yeah. To answer the second part, does any of the personalities overpower the others? The only time that another personality will overpower another is if that person really wants out. Like yesterday, for example, I was having a bad mental day. I was the one that was triggered. I was a crying mess, and somebody else was trying to take over, and they're like, just let me come out and I'll make us some tea and we'll start feeling better. And I could not calm down enough or let go of the front enough to let that other person come out. And she had to really shove me hard, like really hard out of the way or whatever. And she kind of compared it to trying to push a stubborn horse out of the way, is what she compared it to. So she did have to overpower me last night to get in control of the body, and that did end up giving us a wicked headache. So we still get some headaches from switching, in case that's a question. But yeah, so when we do overpower the other, the downfall of overpowering the other is a body often will suffer a horrible headache from it. So Skittlewiddles, hey Skittlewiddles, how you doing? So Skittlewiddles is asking, how did you find out your mom is D.I.D?
So there was a point where my dad was explaining it for me at one point before I came to visit my mom, and he explained that that's what D.I.D was. So I didn't notice anything that really popped any questions up at the time.
Okay. And did you notice something and ask questions, or did your mom bring it to your attention? Obviously, it was not me that brought it to your attention. And you said you didn't notice anything before?
Mm-mm.
And you have asked questions over the years, like most people do.
Mm-hmm.
So just like everybody does. How many are there? How does this happen? What happens if this or whatnot? You know, like a lot of questions. Okay, and Tammy actually had another question. She asked, when others are talking, does it sound kind of like talk radio? Or talk radio going on in the background? Yeah, it does. That's a good way to describe it. It kind of sounds like a distant, maybe not even all of a sudden, like it's not necessarily always distant either. Yeah, it is kind of like a radio going on in the background. I would say that accurately does sort of describe it. Sometimes it's distant, sometimes it's like closer. It depends on how close they are to the front. Like the closer they are to the front, the more clearly I'm gonna hear them. However, what our system did inside, this is one of the first things that we did, because shortly after the first time we were diagnosed with D.I.D, and we started working with a therapist, and we were having communication issues. Like we got to a point where we could see each other on the inside, but we couldn't talk to each other. So we could be face to face like this, talking, but we couldn't hear each other, even though we were right next to each other. And so it was actually a suggestion, I think, by a therapist. I don't remember now. So either we just thought of it, or a therapist told it. I don't know. I don't remember how it came to us, but we decided to make cell phones inside. So if there's any systems out there struggling with some communication issues, that's one that I've recommended to many. It doesn't work for all, but if it helps and works for your system, then try making cell phones or other talking devices. And my twin brother and I were younger in the system. We had walkie-talkies. Hey, why not? So we had walkie-talkies. They just worked long distances and stuff. I know there was a girl inside, Sarah. She had like a Spy Kids looking watch that could talk and everything. So that was different. The rest of them just kind of had like cell phones. So and everybody now pretty much just has cell phones. Yeah. So it's, let's see. So it, as far as the talk, it just kind of depends. Like, if they call me on the cell phone, I don't always necessarily get it. If I do, that's less. I don't know how to describe that one. I don't know how to describe that. It's not quite like the radio signal, but kind of maybe. But it is different. But I can also get text messages on my phone inside too. So, and that's literally like I look at my phone and it's a text. I don't hear their voice. I see it as a text on my phone. So, all right. And Yusetta, she had a question. She said, the first part of her question is, how do I handle discipline? Me and mine, we were always very against any kind of physical discipline. So I'll put that out there right there, that we never agreed upon or thought that hitting a child just never made sense to me. So it just never does not compute, does not make sense. You did something wrong, wham! Like, what? That doesn't compute. It made a lot more sense to me to sit down with my child and talk to them about what they did. Be like, do you know that was wrong to do? And actually, there's a situation where she was 6 that this really worked to our advantage. Do you remember breaking the window with that ball? She's laughing, okay? Do you see this? You know why she's laughing, you guys? Is because we didn't traumatize the shit out of her when she broke that window when she was 6 years old. That's why. So let me describe the situation to you guys, because oh my God.
All I remember was I was playing with my sister for a little bit outside, and then she went inside, and I wanted to get her attention, so I threw some rocks at the window. I think at one point I picked up a ball or something.
Yeah, it was a ball. You picked up the ball, and she threw it at the window, and it broke the window. So I'm in the kitchen, whatever, and we hear this crash through the window, and we're like, oh my God. So I don't remember if we went outside first or went upstairs first. I don't know, because we had a child outside and we had a child upstairs in the room. We didn't know where to go. It's like you had to go both. If there was a time we wanted to split ourselves up and go both ways, that was the time. So anyway, I think we went upstairs first, and then Jaden was, and we had to go down. We had to clean up the glass. So the child that was upstairs, we had to get the child out of that room, close that door, go get the child that was outside that broke the window, which was her, get her inside, and oh my God, I wanted to go off. I wanted to yell. I wanted to scream. I was like, you know, I was so mad, so mad. So I think at first I was like, sit down. I will be with you in a minute. So, and I went upstairs. I cleaned up the glass out of her room. I know that. I remember that. We got all the glass out of her room because we were very worried about that because they won't run around barefoot all the time. So, wanted to make sure that got all out of the carpet because there was carpet up there. So I got all the glass out. And then afterwards, I was still mad. I was not ready to talk to her. I was still mad. I mean, it didn't take me too long to get the glass out because thankfully there wasn't a lot, but still. And then after that, I was like, go to your room, play with your toys until I come back or until I come get you. And she said, okay. So she went into her room. I think her sister went with her. She went to go play with her toys. Meanwhile, I was like taking care of my son. Meanwhile, I was taking care of my son, and So anyway, I went back to go talk to her, and I sat down after I was, because I needed like 5 minutes or so, because I mean, this all kind of took place in like 5-10 minutes. I need that 5-10 minutes just to really get my breath and really calm down, because I really wanted to just, I was so mad. So I went upstairs, and I think it was actually Ash out that came out to talk to her, because I've said before, and I'll say it again, Ash never loses his cool, like, ever. Like, ever. So he can stay calm no matter how pissed any of us are, no matter how pissed he is. He still usually can remain pretty calm. I won't say always. I have seen the guy pissed, but usually remain calm. So he came out and he sat down and he said, "Do you know what you did?"
I remember you asking me that question.
Mm-hmm. And she said, "Uh-huh." Said, "You broke the window." And she went, "Uh-huh." I'm like, okay. Did you know, and see, Ash actually thought to ask her this question, goes, "Did you know when you threw that ball at the window that the window would break?" And she said, "Uh-uh." And she had this look on her face, like she really honestly, I mean, she thought that window was solid. She thought that there's, no breaking it. And a 6-year-old would think that. So it occurred to Ash that a window would appear her whole life. A window appears to be completely solid. She's never seen a window break before. She wouldn't know that a window could break. So why would she think a window would break at throwing something at it? Doesn't throw it and didn't break when she threw rocks at it, so why not a ball? So he thought to ask her that question. She honestly didn't know, and he goes, "Okay, well, now you know that things like balls and rocks can break windows. So we're not going to do that anymore, right?" And she said, "Right. I won't throw balls at windows anymore or rocks." And I'm like, good job. Okay. No more throwing balls or rocks at windows. No. Good. And after that, she didn't. But, just the fact that he had it within him to pause that much, or any of us for that matter, that could take that kind of pause, think about that for a second, the reality of a 6-year-old versus what reality really is, and ask that question and find out that a 6-year-old's mindset really did not know that window would break. So yeah, there is that. So
and then
it's,
I wanted to ask her.
well, hold on, we're not done with me. So she was just like, I know this is kind of long-winded because about a discipline question, but so we sat down, and this is an example that we just kind of sat down and talked with you, and that's the approach. Now, if she did do something that it was wrong and she knew it was wrong, then she'd go in timeout. And the way that we operated timeout is that however old they were is how many minutes they got in timeout. So if she was 2 years old, she got 2 minutes. If she was 5 years old, she got 5 minutes. If she was 10 years old, she got 10 minutes. So that's how we did timeout. So because I couldn't figure out, like, how do you decide how long it's appropriate for a 2-year-old to sit in timeout? Because like 30 seconds later, they're not going to remember what they did. It's, they're not going to remember why they're sitting there and in trouble. And so I don't know, like, I've always taken the avenue that we wanted to talk to our kids first about what they did wrong, and find out if they knew what they did wrong was wrong, and if they didn't, well, now they do. And then if they knew it was wrong, like they lied or they, I don't know, something, then when they were younger, they'd get a timeout, and then later grounded, or like electronics taken away, their cell phone, computers, stuff like that. So we've always gone that route. We've always gone like timeout, but timeout also would, like, I'd put myself in timeout. Like that time when she broke the window, I had to go into a mommy timeout.
And she would explain that to us too, that timeout sometimes doesn't mean that you're in trouble. Sometimes it just means that you need to stop and think about it.
Right, because that was also important to us, that I remember, like, we remember being a kid, like, if we did something and we knew we did something wrong or whatever, it was obvious. The emotions alone of the adults around you, you know you did something wrong. You just may not understand exactly what you did. And I struggled with that sometimes growing up. I didn't always understand what I was getting in trouble for or why. So I just always wanted to make sure that my kids knew what was going on and why, and that the timeout, like, yeah, I wanted to teach them that you can do this for yourself too, for your own emotional control. That time out is to get emotional control over yourself, so you can continue with your day. So she did something and it upsetted me. It's obviously going to upset her if I'm upset, because kids are going to react how their parents react. So if I'm upset, she knows that something's wrong. And so if I'm like, go to timeout, kind of thing, that's harsh enough for them to hear, that they already know something's wrong. And then so I wanted to assure them, look, I need a timeout too. You need a timeout. We're both going to just think for a minute, okay? I need like 5-10 minutes to think, and we'll talk. And then we come back and we talk. So I would do that's the route that I would always do, is timeout, and or like once they got older, where timeout didn't necessarily work or matter, then it was grounding and taking electronics away. So on to the other part of your question. You said, was there a system in place for her to know who was who?
No, it was never really important. Well, that, and I didn't know about the fact that my mom had D.I.D. until like I was 10. But even then, it wasn't necessarily important for me to know who was out.
Right.
Because like I said, they're all my mom. I respond to all of them as my mom. I do what she asks me to do when she asks me to do it. She's my mom. So to me, it was never really important. And then as I got older, I would ask, who's out, just out of curiosity. And I mean, there's little things like I can tell Mia's Mia because she has usually a bit of a higher pitched voice than any of the other girls that might be in the system. But that's really about the only person that I can diagnose. Maybe Ash, because Ash has a bit of a deeper voice than Dax. But that's about it.
Okay. I've been told that before, that Ash has like the deepest voice out of all of us. So, okay. So there's no rule system. And for us, like, we don't really have anything in place to, like, say, oh, it's so-and-so out now, or it's so-and-so out now. Like, she might be doing her own thing, playing games on her computer or something, socializing, whatever, and we might switch, but it's not important to us to go and announce to the whole entire house, like, hey, by the way, we've switched. It's now whoever, like, we don't announce it. But as she said, there's some people who she can tell right away that it's whoever, and if she does have a question, she just asks who it is. And so yeah. How was it before there was a system in place to know who was who? And again, I guess you were just saying it wasn't important really to you before, and it's not. Afterwards, it was, if
More
you had a
curiosity.
question. Yeah. So just curious of like, wait, you're different. So, okay. And actually,
Then I had a question. I asked her, I'm asking my mom, when did you start feeling more comfortable around us kids talking about your D.I.D.?
Good question. So I want to really address this, and I hope I do this justice, especially for other D.I.D. parents out there, or people who are D.I.D. who may be either a new parent or become a parent someday, or would like to be a parent. I've even heard some people thought that parenting was completely off the table because they have D.I.D., and that's not true. this is proof that you can be a parent living with DID and be a good parent. Being DID will have no bearing negatively on your children, you know, if you don't want it to. Like, if you want to be a good parent and all of your others want to be a good parent, you guys will be a good parent. As far as when we felt comfortable, well, see, that was sort of weird for us because we never really truly knew if or when we ever wanted to tell you guys. It's like, we struggled with the question ourselves amongst each other. Do we ever tell the kids? And if we do ever tell the kids, at what age should we tell them? Should we wait until they're adults? Should we tell them when they're teens? Should we tell them now as children? Well, back then as children. And then that decision was kind of taken away from us. So by her dad and stepmom telling her about us. So they decided to tell her about the D.I.D. And
Which,
then,
if anybody else thinks that that's okay, I would strongly argue that it's not really okay. Even if you feel like the kids should know, you should talk to the person who has the D.I.D. and discuss it with them and let them know how you feel. But you should not tell somebody about somebody else's mental illness, and I believe that about any other illness. Depression, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, it doesn't matter. That's up to another person if they want to tell someone.
I agree. So that choice was taken away from us. I would have appreciated a heads up, like, at least, hey, we're gonna tell the kids. I mean, I would have even preferred, like, being asked permission, like, hey, is it okay if we share this with the kids at this time? Like, that would have been my preferred way. But I didn't get that, much less even saying, hey, by the way, we're gonna tell the kids. It was, oh, hi mom, we know about your D.I.D. And it was, okay, so, wow, all right, okay. But being D.I.D, I guess you could say, like, in some ways, we handle some surprises like that better than some, I don't know, like, I'm used to things happening out of the blue for no reason, unexpectedly. So, I've kind of gotten used to that. I don't like it necessarily, but I've gotten used to it. So it popped up, and this was a thing now. As far as when I felt more... At first, it felt really strange because, like I said, we hadn't even decided if we're going to say anything, much less when. So we weren't really sure. But we hadn't decided to tell you yet, that's for sure. After you knew and you started asking questions, we became more and more comfortable with it. I know some of the others felt weird at first, like, yeah, it's me, at first. But then after, I don't know, like, it didn't take us long, like maybe a year, and we got used to her asking questions here and there and asking who's out and noticing that there is a difference with, who's out when. So yeah, we could just kind of...
And then I just thought of a question somebody else might ask was it not that shocking to me? Not for me. It wasn't shocking to hear that my mom had D.I.D. It was more just, I knew about it now, and now I want to ask questions. But my dad also, he explained it very calmly, and he explained it as thoroughly as he could.
He explained it nicely.
Yes.
Yeah, so
he
explained it nicely.
It wasn't much of a shock. It might be to other people if they were to hear their friend or their mom or their sister has D.I.D, but for me, it just wasn't.
I think you were kind of told before you could, like, before you knew there was differences. Because I think to you, it just kind of came off as your mom in different moods.
Yeah, I think so too. I think at that time it was just different moods.
So yeah, I think it kind of, and that's kind of what D.I.D. can sort of look like. Doesn't your friend have another question?
Yeah. Let's pull that up. He actually had a few.
Okay, so we have a few more questions from a friend. What are we calling this friend?
Thomas.
Okay, so these are from Thomas. Thomas, you know who you are, or at least you will.
He asks, how does mildly D.I.D. diagnosed affect the workplace, and are there signs that an employer would look for, especially if that employer wanted to help said person?
Okay, hold on, pause. I can only take in so much. So I
So
already had
how
you
does D.I.D. affect the workplace, even in a mild sense? That's not exactly the question, but that's what he meant.
How does I don't know that a person who's if you're if one of your coworkers is DID and you don't know about it, there's a very good chance you may never detect it. You may never know as a coworker. The reason why is because, and I've heard some other people that are DID talk about this, and this used to actually happen as well with our host Diva, is that when we were at work can be very grounding for some people, like for D.I.D. systems. So when they're at work, there's like usually a host or one person in particular that comes out to do that job. And so that only that person is fronting and comes out and does that job. Now, there is a lot of talk about like still sometimes switching could happen, or what if you get triggered on a job, or you start feeling dissociative, like you start, kind of feeling like you're zoning out and blanking out, kind of thing. Then, like, what do you do if you're at working and that happens? There is some grounding tools that people can use to prevent that, and a lot of people do. If you're working in a place where I've heard some other multiple systems talk about like one prefers to work in a place where they can wander. Another one prefers a place where they stay put at a desk. And so it just really depends on what works for your system and what job you guys feel you can do and what works for you. So there's some people that will take a job. There's some people who are DID that will take a job that allows for the switching. But if it allows for the switch, like if it's something that's like maybe say you work at Chuck E. Cheese or something and it's more playful or something like that, where you can kind of wander around and do different things and stuff like that. You're not stuck at one station necessarily, maybe, or whatever, or maybe you are for a little bit, but you can still walk around a little, I don't know, whatever.
Waitressing is a good idea.
Waitressing, we used to be an assistant manager at a record store, so that allowed us a lot of freedom to walk around and do things, because we would have to regularly like clean up the aisles, make all the discs nice and fronted and look nice, talk to customers, go and look for a CD. I could always,
Stand
like
at
people
the
call.
register for the people who want to sit at a desk.
Yeah, and then the times when it wasn't busy, like we would literally just throw in music and dance around in the store. So it it's a record store is really fun to work out if you're DID. I'm just saying.
A record store sounds really fun to work at anyway.
It was. It was. I'm glad I had that experience. So I would love to work at another one. But yeah, it just really depends. So we've had both kinds of jobs. We've had jobs where it was a little bit more like we could be our different selves, and like we could switch and dissociate and nobody would really notice. And then we've had another job where we couldn't dissociate or switch, and we really had to stay like one person focused on that job.
This video is going to be like an hour or more long.
That's okay.
Okay. I just wanted you to realize that.
It is what it is. I mean, yeah.
The other part of that question, and there's like 4 questions after this. So, are there signs that an employer would look for, especially if that employer wanted to help that person? I feel like that would depend on if the employer would know what
If
DID
you know what
is.
kind of, yeah, you'd have to know what DID is. You'd have to know what kind of signs to look for. If, like, I know what dissociation looks like. I go through it, I experience it. So if I'm watching somebody else and their DID or whatever, or talking to somebody else with DID, if they start dissociating, I pick it up. There's things that people may say or whatever, like that I might pick up, like, you know, I wonder if they're DID or whatever. But I don't really, because it's, every single system is so different, and the way that their system and how that, like, who comes out when or why or how and how they are as a person. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, if you think like how each person is different, of course each system is different, and each individual inside a system is different. So
it's a very unique situation.
right. So I don't know how you could, I don't know. I mean, it's a great question, and I'm really glad, like, kudos to you for being an employer to wanting to help, like, other people under your employment with the idea and make it a more uncomfortable environment. I really wish there were more employers out there. So I, aside from like posting like DID friendly work site on a wall, like you can maybe make it as a joke or something, but aside from posting something like that on the wall blatantly or whatever, I don't really know. I don't really know. But thank you for wanting to do that. That's
The
great.
second question is, in a personal relationship, how does it affect the other partner within said relationship and out? So like you and your fiance.
So like me and Paul?
Mm-hmm. You'll have to cut that out.
I don't think he minds me using his name.
Okay.
There's, well, okay, so DID and partners or dating or marriage or any of that, that could be a whole nother video all by itself. Maybe I'll make that a whole nother video by itself. But briefly, at least with my relationship with, I've dated a lot of, like me and mine, we've dated a lot of people in the past. We've been married before, etc., etc. Right now we're engaged to Paul. And the way that people have dealt with it throughout the years has been very distinctly different. So some people are very accepting of it, other people not so much. Some people really want to accept it and understand it, but they just don't. It
just doesn't click for them.
Yeah, it just doesn't. And I've even had a situation where it's like a person really wanted to get it and understand it, but they were triggering me. So they kept, like, I mean, my triggers are mine, and I'm adamant about that, but at the same time, like, these conversations that kept happening between me and this other individual, even though that person really wanted to understand and be supportive, it ended up being the opposite. And I don't know what exactly went wrong in that friendship, but it just didn't work very well.
All right. The next question is, I don't know if you've mentioned your experience with the eye doctor, but he was asking, like that experience when your eyes were being checked and they noticed you switch, does biochemistry also go through other physical changes when personalities switch, like allergies, general illness like colds?
Yes. So, strange fact, it could be like, say if I have a headache and somebody else comes out, they may or may not have that headache. So like I could have a headache, but they might or might not. Or same thing with the stomach ache or anything going on physically. I might have a cold and somebody else doesn't really feel affected. I know I personally like worked out the muscles and I felt fine, but the girls, they complained because they felt like their muscles were lead and they were really, really super sore and couldn't walk. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Legs are fine. So, yeah, they all experienced. Now, exactly how that works, I mean, I have no idea. I just know that DID breaks medical science as we know it. At least for my system and I, what one would think, like,
if your stomach is sick, then everybody should experience being physically sick, and that's just not the way it is. So, and it's
There's other research that's gone into it that have shown
Yeah.
people who are allergic to something
right.
aren't allergic as another personality.
Right. So there is evidence out there of people like they don't. You could be a D.I.D system and all share the same body, but have different allergies. You might have different eye prescriptions. I didn't grab my glasses when I switched, but it's, as you guys know, as Dax, I need glasses. My vision, I can't see crap right now. But Mia could see just fine without the glasses. So we took this to an eye doctor, and they confirmed it, that we do have different, prescription. So there is different vision. How far deep this goes, I don't know. I don't know. So it was surprising for us. I mean, we have different allergies. Like, some of us can drink coffee and others cannot. It just in general, like, I pretty much made us stop drinking coffee in general because it's just not very healthy for us with certain other medical conditions that we have going on. It's just not healthy for us on a regular basis.
Alrighty, and his last question, I think there's a couple more on my phone, I'll go through and look at it. His last question is, how does it affect one's memory, both short-term and long-term retentions?
They're bullshit. They both suck. With dissociation especially, like, I can be talking, and then all of a sudden lose train of thought. Like, I'll just space out and lose train of thought. And totally, I mean, really right on point 1 second, and I'm making a really good point, and then I have no idea what I'm saying. Like, just like that. And I know that happens to everybody, but this happens a lot on, like, almost through every conversation I have, just about. I will at some point either, like, lose track of what I'm saying, dissociate a little bit maybe during it or something. I don't know. Like, it just happened. I'm already losing track of the question, so I don't know if I'm answering it.
So we'll call him Meyer.
Alarm.
So we'll call him Meyer. Somebody else asked, the biggest thing I've always wondered about that sort of thing is, do you actually hear different voices talking to you with their own personalities? And when, if a different personality comes out, where do you go? And I know you've kind of already explained this in other videos, but for someone
a little bit. Actually, we are going to do a video about nothing but inner worlds. Don't lose that question though. We are going to do a video about inner worlds specifically, so I do have that planned. That has been a request, and that's on the mind. So thank you for your question. And so where do I go? The biggest thing. The hearing first. So we have to break this down for me here. All right, so the hearing first. No, I don't hear anything physically. Like, I'm not hearing a physical sound on the outside. It's only in here that I'm hearing it. It basically sounds like, and they do have distinct voices, like different voices talking to me in my head, but they sound different. Some are female, some are male, some have like really low voices, some are like, just like how your different family members have different voices. And like, if you were to think of, like a sister or brother's voice, or a parent's voice, or whatever, or a grandparent's voice, you can kind of almost like hear their voice in your head. And that's kind of sort of what it's like, except for the thoughts aren't mine, they're coming from them. So in my head I do, and they do have distinct different voices. Like, if Mia comes up to talk to me, it's like, if you have a family member, if you live with like 3 siblings or something, or whoever, or even 3 roommates, you don't get one roommate usually confused with the other, or very rarely, or whatever, because it's like they have distinctly different voices. So it's like, if Mary is talking to you or Fred. So it's kind of like that. Like I know distinctly, like if it's Mia talking to me versus Sarah, or even the new girl, or like one of the new girls, Echo, but or not, but yeah, I don't hear anything on the outside. Nothing's physically heard on the outside. It's just.
And he also asked when and if a different personality comes out, where do you go?
So I go inside the world, pretty much. So I just go inside, and I do whatever I feel like doing. I might go. I have a twin brother inside, and him and we might go skating, or I don't know, just go mess around, like go goof around, like guys do. So just there's nothing really in specific. Like we might go take a walk, hike, go camping, skating. We have a pirate ship inside that we've taken that sailing before. It's whatever we feel like doing.
So, somebody else asked which personality you prefer the most and which one you don't like much and why. I interpreted it one way, my mom interpreted it another way. So, I kind of gave some clarification because I misinterpreted it. So, what I answered to her, we'll say her name is Price. What I interpreted.
Hi, Bryce.
Hi, Price. What I interpreted her from her, I thought she was like asking if my mom is one personality, and then there's like other like. I just misinterpreted it. We'll put it that way. And so I said, there's not one personality that is my mom and is split into others. My mom is a bunch of different personalities that share one body. So asking which personality she prefers the most is difficult because when you're asking the personality that is running the body at the time. And there are other personalities that prefer running the body and personalities that don't, but there's not one that does and is my mom. They're all my mom.
Right.
And she said, okay, well, what personalities come out the most? And
so who comes out the most? We'll cover that one. Okay. People who come out, well, obviously me, Dax, I'm the host. I'd say next to that, probably it'd be a toss-up between Mia and Andy. They come out. And then possibly Harley, even though she's a quiet one, but there are things in the computer that she really likes to do, so she'll come out at night and play on the computer or the phone. So Harley comes out quite a bit.
And then what about your new girl, Echo?
Echo's only been out like maybe once or twice. She hasn't been out a lot. So, and that's partly my fault. Because I don't know what it's like for other D.I.D systems. This could be partly the reason why, like, maybe we don't switch as much. I don't know, but once I'm in the front, it's really hard for me to let go of the front. Like, I can't let go so easily. Even if I want to go inside and let go of the front and let somebody else take over, I have a really difficult time letting go and letting that other person come in. It's really hard sometimes. So to switch, even if we want to, like, need the switch to happen or want the switch to happen, and then the other times it just happens instantly. Like today we've been switching like non-stop, and yeah.
And then the other part of the question was, why are those personalities out more often? Which you kind of answered. Yours is because you can't go back inside very easily.
Yeah, mine is because I can't go back and forth very easily. Like, once I'm out, it's like I'm out for, I don't know, I'm just out. The other reasons why that they might come out, the number one reason why Andy will come out is because of pain. So I'm just going to say it. He's kind of I don't know, he can just absorb it. He's like a shield or something. Andy's really good with pain. And he can also, we discovered he can also do another unique feature, because he's not, oh, by the way, we all have different, on the Myers-Briggs, we all test differently on the Myers-Briggs. So I'm an INTP on the Myers-Briggs, and Andy, oh crap, I forgot what Andy's was.
Which, if you want to take that, it's called the 16 personalities quiz, I think, something like that.
No, it's a Myers-Briggs test. So that's Myers-Briggs personality quiz. So it's, if you Google that, then you'll find it. But anyway, the Myers-Briggs personality test, and it's basically these things to describe. You know, it's like if you're introvert or extrovert, if you're, if you go with what you feel and think on the inside, or whether you're going by the things that you're seeing and taking in from your senses on the outside. Like, do you rely on your outside senses, or do you rely on your internal, you know, senses? So it's like, which ones do you do? So it's like, first it's introvert, extrovert, then it's N, or what's the other one? S? And I think N is when you're the inside thing. I don't remember. So it's like, you guys might want to look it up more. I definitely don't have, I have notes about all of this stuff if I was to speak more about it, but I don't have those in front of me. But anyway, it's we all test differently on the Myers-Briggs test. And Andy is like, I can't remember what it was, but I remember somebody else saying that that type of personality is the kind of personality you want around. Like, if a zombie apocalypse, you know, came up high or whatever, then Andy's personality type is the one that you want around, because he's going to be, that personality type is like, you know, the survivor combat, like, keeps a level head, delegates things out, and just like, okay, let's just do this and get it done. And which he doesn't really delegate, he's not like that. But anyway, so we have a lot of pain that we deal with our back and neck and stuff like that, some physical pains. And we can't take any pain meds. We're allergic to all pain meds. That is one thing that all of us are allergic to. So nobody can take pain meds. So Andy is our toughest one when it comes to pain. If a certain body part gets locked and we can't move it, Andy has to come out and make it move. So yeah, he's also dealt with joints dislocation and pushing them back in place, and just, it's crazy. So but yeah, so and if our back or neck is acting up, or we're going through really bad pain, Andy's out. Mia just likes to play a lot, so she's the social butterfly. She likes to be out, she likes to talk to our friends online and just be out and do stuff. So if I haven't been social enough or something like that, or I don't know, not necessarily even me, like, even if she just wants to be social, like if she doesn't feel that she's gotten enough social time in with her friends or playtime or whatever, then she'll want to come out and do her things, play her games, talk with her friends. And then let's see, Harley, she pretty much just comes out at night, like I said before, and we'll play her games. And somebody else I mentioned, Ash, no. Ash used to come out a lot more often. He's not so much anymore, but he used to come out a lot more often. But yeah, it's Dax, Andy, Mia, Harley. Those are the 4 main other ones that come out. I thought there was a 5th one I mentioned. Anyway, so those are the people that, like, I guess mainly come out and about. Oh, you're asking about Echo, I think. And then, but yeah, so it's, those are some of the reasons why. Pretty much to do their own thing, or talk with their friends, play their games, do the activities that they enjoy doing. So that's the kind of, you know, reasons why they would come out and do their thing. So, all right.
Well, that was all the questions.
Yep.
We didn't have many for me, so if you guys have any more questions for me or for my mom, just leave them in the comments and we'll get to them, or you can send me them, because I'll leave my social media in the description.
Yes.
So, and we said we wanted to do this a little bit more regularly, so those will
Right.
eventually get answered.
Right. So please, guys, yes, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, like especially questions that you would like us to cover during our next video, please post them down below, and we will cover them during our next video. So thank you, everybody. This has been a pleasure. So this has been done with like Dax and Mia both. It was supposed to be Mia's tea time, and then we ended up switching because of the phone call. Apologize. But thank you, everybody, and please subscribe and like, and I appreciate all you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.